My name is Jason Soliz, and I'm fighting out of Texas Third Coast MMA in Houston/Sugar Land, Texas. I got into MMA for, I don't know, various reasons, but I mean, I've always trained MMA. We just never actually called it that. You know, I'm only 27, but me and my dad have been on the scene for years. You know, before it was even actually the UFC, I think we were training like a lot of mixed martial arts stuff. And again, it wasn't called mixed martial arts, it was just, we called it cross-training. So even before we were doing jiu-jitsu, you know, I was doing boxing, kickboxing, jeet kune do, traditional and improvised weapons, all kinds of crazy stuff. But I grew up with my dad doing that because my dad's a former pro boxer. Did some Muay Thai for a little while, and of course he competed in the jiu-jitsu scene, which is kind of, I guess, what I'm known for, but you know, I've always started doing stand-up whenever I started doing things. So MMA as a whole has pretty much been something I grew up with. Texas Submission Hunter was an interesting thing just because I was 170 champ, apparently. Some people didn't feel like I proved it that night. However, I think a submission and a heel hook, an arm bar in particular, and a heel hook that did a little bit of damage all in the same night was pretty successful. And then, you know, I get to showcase the skills, of course, and show that I'm not just a one-trick pony. Because everybody thinks that all I do is heel hooks, even though I've got countless matches on YouTube where it's not just heel hooks and it's not just in the no-gi. And it was pretty interesting just because I went that night from defending the title to going to a Muay Thai event that I didn't know was for like a 170-pound belt. And I got that the following morning, I think at like noon or something like that. So went from Submission Hunter one night, like literally within about 6 hours, to fighting for Muay Thai the next morning, and not doing too bad in it. So that was pretty fun, pretty interesting. Enjoyed it a lot. Like I said, I like being in front of people, so it's just part of it. The fight is, I'm fighting Kolton Englund, who is a tough opponent. Definitely don't give anybody any slack whenever it comes to the fight game. You know, everybody's got their own thing that they bring to it. I think the problem that what a lot of people think is that I'm just a jiu-jitsu guy. They think I'm just gonna throw a punch and just shoot, or slip a punch and shoot. But I've been doing stand-up since, man, for as long as I can remember. You know, I started in traditional point sparring and stuff like that back when I was like maybe 6 to 8 years old. And then, of course, I started doing boxing and, like I said, all the jeet kune do stuff. And it's interesting, and it's finally like it's a little relaxing to honestly have that pro style and pro rules, just because when I'm in the gym and we actually get to train, I don't get a chance to let loose on elbows, knees, and things like that. I have to protect my partners. And I've always trained with a lot of amateur and pro fighters, but again, you're taking care of the fighters at the same time you're doing that. So when it comes to opening up the skill set in an actual pro situation, I'm kind of looking forward to it, to be honest. Just because I feel like I have a release, like I can actually get out there and just let things go and just kind of flow with it. I'd like to thank all of my training partners, and I don't know if it's very well known, but we have actually been cross-training with a lot of other gyms that have come in and train with us. So the guys from Team Took, thanks to Travis Took for letting his guys come over. A couple of the guys, you know, like Cody Owens and a few of the other guys that were coming over to kind of scrap with us a little bit. The guys from Texas Jeet Kune Do, Jason Soliz, who's actually, I want to say he was the legacy 125er for their amateur title belt holder, and he's been training with us for a while too. Also the guys from Bushy Band, so Master Zolfi, thanks a lot for letting some of your fighters and stuff like that come over. Had a lot of big help from the guys at CEV Athletics too. Ruin Coronado and Marshall. Those guys are, man, some of the best training partners and honestly coaches and just general life people that you could probably ask for. Generally good people. Of course, my father, big influence on me my entire life. He's my coach, he's also my father, but it's a unique coaching situation. I think for the father to get to coach his son, I got to give him like big props for that.